At 71, John Travolta wasn't making headlines with announcements or dramatic interviews. But the people closest to him sensed something changing. Personal items tied to defining moments of his career began leaving his possession, not sold or displayed, but quietly given away. A jacket connected to an early film role ended up with a young performer. A well-worn dance costume found a new home with an instructor who inspired others. Even a pair of pilot wings, deeply personal, was handed to someone he'd met only briefly. None of it was explained. Friends noticed that Travolta seemed gentler, more reflective, as if time itself had slowed for him. He began turning down projects that once would have been automatic yeses. Instead, he spent more days at his Florida home, flying simply for the joy of flight. It wasn't sadness exactly. It felt more like a man reassessing what truly mattered after a lifetime of motion. A childhood shaped by noise and necessity. John Travolta was born on February 18, 1954, in Englewood, New Jersey, the youngest of 6 children in a household that rarely knew silence. His father worked long hours running a small business, while money stretched thin across growing needs. Comfort wasn't guaranteed, but creativity filled the gaps. His mother, Helen, had once dreamed of acting and turned their living room into a classroom, teaching performance to support the family. For young John, watching her transform into different characters felt magical. It was the first time he understood that identity could be flexible, that you could step outside yourself and survive. While the family faced financial uncertainty, Helen insisted that imagination was not a luxury, but a lifeline. In that crowded house, surrounded by stress and resilience, John learned early that becoming someone else wasn't escapism, it was a form of strength. Finding refuge in performance school was not kind to John Travolta. He was shy, physically slight, and struggled with a stutter that made ordinary conversations exhausting. Teasing followed him through hallways and classrooms, slowly shaping a deep sense of self-doubt. But when he performed, something remarkable happened. The stutter faded. The fear softened. On stage, he felt protected by the character he inhabited. His mother noticed how performing changed him and encouraged it, enrolling him in local productions where difference became an advantage instead of a weakness. The first time he stood under stage lights, the world beyond them seemed to disappear. Applause replaced ridicule. Acceptance replaced isolation. Acting became more than a hobby. It became survival. Each role allowed him to channel pain into expression, turning insecurity into connection. That early discovery planted the belief that art could offer safety when the real world felt unforgiving. Leaving home before he felt ready. At just 16, Travolta made a decision that terrified his family. He left high school and moved alone to New York City, carrying little more than determination and uncertainty. Life there was harsh and humbling. He lived in cramped rooms, worked exhausting jobs, and faced rejection daily. Auditions ended quickly. Roles went to others. Loneliness settled in during long walks through the city. Still, he persisted, training relentlessly and studying every detail of performance. A demanding acting coach stripped away his reliance on instinct and forced him to build discipline. Slowly, his craft sharpened. Small theater roles led to slightly larger ones. Nothing came easily, but each experience hardened his resolve. Those early years taught him resilience more than success ever could. They taught him that passion without endurance fades quickly, and that belief must be reinforced by work, patience, and the willingness to fail repeatedly without losing purpose. Sudden fame and unexpected loss. By his early 20s, success arrived with overwhelming force. Television turned him into a household name, and film soon followed, transforming him into a cultural phenomenon. Audiences embraced his energy, his movement, his natural charisma. Yet behind the celebration, life delivered a devastating blow. As his career soared, his mother became seriously ill. She had been his earliest supporter, the one who recognized his gift before anyone else. Losing her while standing at the peak of public admiration created a fracture he carried quietly. He fulfilled obligations, smiled for cameras, and danced through premieres, all while mourning privately. That contrast left a lasting impression. He learned that achievement could not shield him from grief. Applause could not replace love. The lesson stayed with him, shaping how he later viewed fame, not as fulfillment, but as something temporary, unable to protect what truly matters. The weight of choice and falling forward. With fame came opportunity, but also difficult decisions. Some roles he accepted, others he declined, believing he was protecting his image or future. Not every choice aged well. As trends shifted and expectations changed, his career entered a quieter phase. Projects underperformed. Public enthusiasm faded. For the first time, he experienced the instability of an industry that celebrates quickly and forgets just as fast. It was humbling. Yet even in disappointment, he continued refining his craft, taking risks, and learning from mistakes. The experience dismantled the belief that success was permanent. Instead, it taught him adaptability. Falling from the spotlight forced him to reassess who he was without constant validation. That period, though painful, laid the groundwork for later reinvention. It reminded him that careers evolve, and survival in Hollywood often depends not on momentum, but on resilience. Reinvention through risk. When John Travolta accepted a role in an unconventional crime film in the mid-1990s, few expected it to change his trajectory. The project was bold, unpredictable, and stylistically daring. For Travolta, it was also deeply personal. The character's confusion, humor, and underlying darkness mirrored feelings he understood well. The performance reintroduced him not as a nostalgic figure, but as a serious, adaptable actor. Audiences and critics responded with renewed respect. The resurgence wasn't just professional. It restored confidence that had eroded over years of uncertainty. He approached work differently now, less concerned with image and more focused on authenticity. That shift extended beyond film. He became more intentional with time, relationships, and personal passions. Reinvention taught him that relevance isn't reclaimed by repeating the past, but by engaging honestly with the present. Fatherhood and life beyond the screen. Away from cameras, Travolta found grounding in family life. Becoming a father reshaped his priorities more than any career milestone. Parenthood introduced a depth of responsibility that fame never could. He became fiercely protective, deeply involved, and increasingly selective about work. When tragedy struck with the loss of his son, grief altered him permanently. It wasn't something he overcame, it was something he learned to carry. Privacy became essential. Public life receded. Later, welcoming another child brought cautious hope, reminding him that joy and sorrow often coexist. Fatherhood became the role that defined him most clearly. It anchored him during uncertainty and gave meaning to days that once revolved around premieres and schedules. Through family, he learned that presence mattered more than performance. and that legacy was built quietly, in moments no audience ever sees. Love, loss, and a changed rhythm. The death of his wife marked another profound turning point. Their partnership had provided stability through decades of success and hardship. Losing her shifted the rhythm of his life once again. He spoke openly about gratitude, love, and the importance of continuing forward. Work slowed. Public appearances became rare. Instead, he focused on daily routines, flying, and supporting his children. The intensity of grief softened into reflection. He no longer chased momentum. He chose calm. Those closest to him noticed a gentler presence, less urgency, more acceptance. He wasn't withdrawing from life, he was redefining it. Loss stripped away illusions of control and permanence, leaving clarity behind. What remained was a man learning to live with memory rather than against it, honoring love not through spectacle, but through steady, intentional living, still moving. When the music fades today, John Travolta's choices appear quieter but no less meaningful. Giving away treasured items isn't about letting go of life, it's about releasing attachment to symbols. He continues to dance, fly, and work when projects resonate, not because he must, but because he wants to. The journey hasn't been about avoiding pain, but about learning to carry it without stopping. His story isn't one of farewell, but of endurance. After decades of applause, criticism, reinvention, and loss, he remains present, not chasing what was, not fearing what's ahead, simply moving forward with grace, shaped by experience. Some people leave the dance floor when the music ends. John Travolta stays, not for the spotlight, but because movement itself has always been how he survives, remembers, and lives.